Welcome back, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining me for part three of Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm Brittany, your manifesting mentor, and I'm so glad that you are here. Give me just a second. Perfect. All right, so I'm not going to make you wait too much longer. So here is what we're going to talk about in part three. Tonight's or today's section, depending on when you're watching it, is a powerful one. We're talking about how your thoughts and emotions can literally change your genes. Yes, your body is not fixed, right? Which is crazy because I work in the healthcare field, and right now all the rave is about genetic testing, genetic testing, genetic testing. But I really feel like this conversation should not be happening without what Dr. Joe introduces to the conversation as it relates to genetics. But here we go. Dr. Joe explains that epigenetics is the science of how gene expression is influenced by our environment. It proves that your internal environment, your thoughts and emotions can activate or deactivate genetic codes. That means you're not doomed by your DNA. You know how we say it just runs in the family? No, baby. It doesn't matter what runs in the family. How you think and how you emotionally relate to your life can activate or deactivate your codes. So that means you're not bound by what runs in your family. You are in fact the signal your body is waiting for. This section gives us deep insight into how healing and transformation begin, not just as the spiritual, not just at the spiritual level, but the biological level. So let's get into how we become the creators of our biology, which is something I don't think many of us could have imagined before, right? We talk about healing through manifestation, intentional creation, and you hear all kinds of things, but again, I have so much respect for Dr. Joe for bringing the science and making it tangible for people like me who have an analytical mind, and I need to see evidence. I need to see proof. And the proof is in the pudding. Check out his channel, but we'll get into this section. We are the creators of our biology and ultimately our destiny, making genetic changes. So we used to think that genes created disease and that we were at the mercy of our DNA. So, if many people in someone's family died of heart disease, we assumed that their chances of also developing heart disease would be pretty high. But we now know through the science of epigenetics that it's not the gene that creates disease, but the environment that programs our genes to create gene disease. And not just the external environment outside our bodies, such as cigarette smoke or pesticides, for example, but also the internal environment within our body, the environment outside our cells. What do I mean by the environment within our body? As I said previously, emotions are chemical feedback, the end products of experiences we have in our external environment. So, as we react to a situation in our external environment that produces an emotion, the resulting internal chemistry can signal our genes to either turn on, upregulating, or producing an increased expression of the gene, or turn off, downregulating, or producing a decreased expression of the gene. The gene itself doesn't physically change. The expression of the gene changes. And that expression is what matters most because that is what affects our health and our lives. Thus, even though someone may have genetic predisposition for a particular disease, for example, if their genes continue to express health instead of expressing that disease, they won't develop the condition and will remain healthy. I need my people who have had a genetic test run recently to give them, or any time in their lives or anywhere in their family, to give them their what I call their hooky spooky curse of the family curse, right? I need you to reconsider epigenetics. Okay. Think of the body as a finely tuned instrument that produces proteins. Every one of our cells, except the red blood cells, makes proteins, which are responsible for the body's physical structure and physiological function. For example, muscle cells make specific protein known as actin and myosin, and the skin cells make the proteins collagen and elastin. Immune cells make antibodies. Thyroid cells make thyroxine, and bone marrow cells make hemoglobin. Some of our eye cells make keratin, while our pancreatic cells make enzymes like protease, lipase, and amylase. There isn't an organ or a system in the body that does not rely on or produce proteins. They are a vital part of our immune system. Digestion, cellular proteins. They are a vital part of our immune system. Digestion, cellular repair, and bone and muscle structure. You name it, they are part of it. In a very real way, then, the expression of proteins is the expression of life and is equal to the health of the body. In order for a cell to make a protein, a gene must be expressed. That's the job of the genes, to facilitate making proteins. When the signal from the environment outside of the cell reaches the cell membrane, the chemical is accepted by a receptor outside of the cell and makes its way to the DNA inside the cell. Then a gene makes a new protein that's equal to that signal. So if the information coming from outside the cell does not change, the gene keeps making the same protein and the body stays the same. Over time, the gene will begin to downregulate. It will either shut off its healthy expression of proteins or it will eventually wear out, like making a copy of a copy of a copy, causing the body to express different quality of proteins. Different classifications of stimuli upregulate and downregulate genes. We activate experience dependent genes, for example, by doing new things or learning new information. These genes are responsible for stem cells getting the instructions to differentiate, transforming into whatever type of cell the body needs at that particular time to replace the cells that are damaged. We activate behavioral state dependent genes when we are in high levels of stress or arousal, or in alternate states of awareness like dreaming. You can think of these genes as the fulcrum of mind body connection because they provide a link between our thoughts and our bodies, allowing us to influence our physical health through various behaviors like meditation, prayer, or social rituals, for example. When genes are altered in this way, sometimes within minutes, those altered genes can then be passed on to the next generation. This is how genes are passed on. So, when you change your emotions, you can change the expression of your genes, turning some on and others off because you're sending a new chemical signal to your DNA, which can then instruct your genes to make different proteins, upregulating or downregulating to make all kinds of new building blocks that can change the structure and function of your body. For example, if your immune system has been subject to living in the emotions of stress for too long and has certain genes activated for inflammation and disease, you can turn on new genes for growth and repair and switch off the old genes responsible for disease. And at the same time, these epigenetically altered genes will begin to follow new instructions, making new proteins and programming the body for growth, repair, and healing. This is how you can successfully recondition your body to a new mind. This is how people in Dr. Joe Dispenza's community are healing their bodies because they're learning how to turn off the old expression of genes and turn on something new by practicing elevated emotions. Stop replaying past thoughts and emotions and stop creating the same habit and create a new habit. It's not woo woo or magic, it's actually science. So, as you read earlier in this chapter, this means that if you're living by the same emotions day in and day out, your body believes it's in the same environmental conditions. Then those feelings influence you to make the same choices, causing you to demonstrate the same habits and then create the same experiences that then produce the same emotions all over again. Thanks to these automatic programmed habits, your cells are constantly being exposed to the same chemical environment outside your body, in your environment, as well as the outside cells, but within the body. That chemistry keeps signaling the same genes in the same way. And so you're stuck because when you stay the same, your genetic expression stays the same. That kind of explains why you could have something, it goes away, but then it comes back. Because even if a treatment works, if you're still being the same, the expression stays the same. So the thing can come back. And now you're headed for a genetic destiny because you don't have any new information coming from the environment. This is why change is the mission. You want to change. You don't just want the thing to come. You want to be the change so that you can maintain what you manifested, even if it is health, since we talked about genetics. But what if the circumstances in your life change for the better? Shouldn't that also change the chemical environment surrounding your cells? Yes, that happens, but not all the time. If you spent years conditioning your body to this cycle of thinking and then feeling and thinking without realizing it, you also condition your body to become addicted to these emotions. So, simply changing the external environment by, say, getting a new job doesn't necessarily break that addiction any more than someone addicted to drugs would be able to stop their cravings just by winning the lottery or moving to Hawaii. I need y'all to understand addiction works the same across the board, whether it's an emotional addiction, a substance addiction, whatever kind of addiction, it works the same. So, don't think that addiction is any better than someone being addicted to crack. Y'all got the same problem, just different way of looking at it. Because of the thinking and feeling loop, sooner or later, after the novelty of the experience is over, most people return to their baseline emotional state. And the body believes it's in the same old experience that created the same old emotions. This is why it's hard to change and break an addiction, even an emotional one. So, if you were miserable in your old job but managed to get a new one, you might be happy for a few weeks or even a few months. But if you had spent years conditioning your body to be addicted to misery, you would eventually return to that old emotion because your body would crave it, its chemicals fix. My mom had this saying that she says, you take yourself wherever you go. So like I used to be like, oh, I can't wait to move, or I'm gonna move to California and do this and that. She's like, well, you take yourself wherever you go. So whatever problems you think you got here, they may not necessarily go away, or they may show up in a different way because you, in essence, are taking your emotional addictions with you. Your outer environment may have changed, but your body will always believe its internal chemistry more than its external conditions. So it remains emotionally locked into your old state of being, still addicted to those old emotions. That's just another way of saying you're still living in the past. And because that internal chemistry hasn't changed, you can't change the expression of your genes to make a new proteins in order to improve the structure of the function of your body. So there's no change in your health or your life. That's why I say you have to think greater than the way you feel to make any real lasting changes. In the winter of 2016, at our advanced workshop in Tacoma, Washington, my team and I performed a study on the effect of elevated emotions, what it had on immune function, taking saliva samples from 117 test subjects at the start of the workshop, and then again 4 days later at the workshop's conclusion. We measured immunoglobulin, which is immunoglobulin A, IgA, which is a protein marker for the strength of the immune system. IgA is an incredibly powerful chemical, one of the primary proteins responsible for healthy immune functioning and the internal defense system. It's constantly fighting a barrage of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other organisms that invade or are already living within the body's internal environment. It's so powerful that it's better than any flu shot or immune system booster you could possibly take when it's activated. It's the primary internal defense system in the human body. When stress levels, and therefore the levels of stress hormones like cortisol, I talk about this all the time, when those go up, this lowers the level of IgA, thereby compromising and downregulating the immune system's expression of the gene that makes this protein. During our 4 day workshop, we asked our study participants to move into elevated emotional states such as love, joy, inspiration, or gratitude for 9 to 10 minutes, 3 times a day. If we could elevate our emotions, we wondered, could we boost our immune system? In other words, could our students upregulate the genes for IgA simply by changing their emotional states? The results amazed us. Average IgA levels shot up by 49.5%. The normal range for IgA is from 37 to 87 milligrams per deciliter. But some people measured more than 100 milligrams per deciliter at the end of the workshop. Our test subjects showed significant, measurable epigenetic changes without having any significant experiences in their external environment. By attaining states of elevated emotions, even for just a few days, their bodies began to believe that they were in a new environment. So they were able to signal, excuse me, they were able to signal new genes and change their genetic expression. In this case, the protein expression of the immune system. So we're going to see figure 2.4, which I'm going to show you. You can screenshot, and then we're going to move on. There you go. So he says, this means that you might not need a pharmacy or an exogenous substance to heal you. You have the power from within to upregulate the genes that make IgA within a few days. Something as simple as moving into an elevated state of joy, love, inspiration, or gratitude for 5 to 10 minutes a day can produce significant epigenetic changes in your health and in your body. And I'm going to conclude part 3 of chapter 2 here, because in the next section, we're going to talk about why your attention is the ultimate currency and where it goes, energy flows. So stick around for part 4. But part 3 and genetic expression, I hope anybody who's experiencing anything health related, please take heed and please do further research about epigenetics and please bring this information to your healthcare team. But more importantly, understand it for yourself. You don't have to take a diagnosis or prognosis as the end all be all, even if it is something genetically expressed, even if you've had it for a while. Because if you learn new behaviors, you learn new thoughts, learn new elevated emotions, and train your body, you can change your genetic expression. You're not changing your genes, particularly, like he said, you're not changing the gene, you're changing how your body reads it. Big deal, guys. Big, big deal. And I need the science community to make more noise about it. But here we are. See you soon.